I welcome you all, basketball degenerates, to another episode of the Pass First, Shoot Later podcast brought to you by the OC Basketball League. I'm your host, Zico Pepic, here with my co-hosts, Michael Van Wyck and Omar Almadine, and Omar is not on the treadmill tonight.
Not tonight.
It's already got them steps in. Good for
I,
you.
I
It's
actually no. I still got to get up and make up a 2,500 steps.
I was
Not bad.
just it's a different night than normal, so maybe your routine was different. But
Yeah, I got up in the morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I went for a walk in the morning to kind of make up the difference.
Good job, Omar. Way to stick with it, man.
I think Zico, you kind of saw Sunday the improvement.
Yeah,
I was
you could see that Omar is losing weight. I saw him Sunday. Him and I and our wives went and got dinner. We played some basketball afterwards. So it was a good day, and he's definitely moving a little better right now too. So
I was able to survive, Mike. I actually got a couple wins too.
there you go.
So
Where'd you get?
well, we would
uh,
have invited you, but you were out in Mammoth.
I was.
but we actually checked out a gym in Orange County, and it's a nice facility, but it has its cons more than its pros.
It was a really nice gym. I want to give a shout out to Mace for making that gym. It's called Hoop Legends. It's right on the border of Irvine and Lake Forest.
And
Uh,
it's not the hoop legends that were in our league. So
yeah,
let's
it's
put
not
that
Hoops
disclaimer out there.
Legends. Yeah, it's not Hoops Legends. It's Hoop Legends. And it's a beautiful facility. He did a great job with it. If it was a little wider, we'd probably be playing there. From
Nice.
the league. So he did a great job with it. The only problem is I think it's like 48 feet wide as opposed to, and so like the 3-point line doesn't go all the way. But shout out to him, man. From the story I've heard is, yeah, he has two sons and he wanted his son's AAU team to have a place to play. And so this guy went and built his own gym.
That's
So
legit.
that's legit.
I need a few months to get in shape. I'll be there by May.
You don't have a few months, Mike. The league started soon.
I'll be all right.
Well, let's jump into a conversation today because there's a topic that's starting to come up a little bit more now as we inch closer towards the end of the season. Some things are shaping up. Some teams are battling some injuries. We're starting to like figure out who the actual contenders are for an actual NBA championship. And I think this is a really good conversation to start having because again, some teams are dealing with injuries. I think Philadelphia might have played themselves out of contention at this point. Um, so things like that are coming up. And also some of the teams that were starting off a little slower, like our Lakers, are starting to really put some big wins in. So yeah, how do you guys feel about title contenders?
So I'll just jump in here real quick. So I've pretty much stayed on the same three teams. I think you got the Celtics, you got the Nuggets. Now you have the Clippers. The Clippers are going through a injury with Westbrook. He just had surgery. They're expecting to get him back. I know that's not really what's reflected in everybody's top contenders. There's obviously some more. The Lakers could hit their stride. You never want to count out a LeBron James team, especially if they get going. But I think they just have a pretty hard path to get there. That age will start taking a toll, but I really think that it's the Clippers versus everybody else, or the Celtics. Sorry.
Oh, I
Uh,
was gonna say, Mike, you got your Clippers in the top
no,
three
no, no, no.
contenders, and
It's
you're about to say that this might be the year for the Clippers. Is that what you're saying?
it might be the year for the Clippers, but I think it's the Celtics to lose. I mean, they started destroying teams again. When they beat the Warriors by 50 something the other day, they just look good, and
But
provided they
let's go
healthy.
back to the Clippers for a little bit here because I know a lot of Clipper fans will love to be talked about in a title contending where they actually probably have a chance. I don't see it, but because obviously it's the Clippers, we know
Yeah,
every year is the title contending for every Clipper fan. But what is that? What is that? What does that do to Russell Westbrook, James Harden's legacies as NBA superstars if they actually bring a championship to the Clippers?
I think it does more for Westbrook than it would for Harden. Just because Westbrook went to LA, the Lakers, and didn't work, and he didn't want to give up on that role of I'm the man, I'm the starter, blah blah blah, and then transitioned to the Clippers. He realized where he was at, he took that back seat, and since then he got going, he got rolling. It adds a whole nother layer to what he did. Um, it goes with all the triple doubles and averaging things and extending his career, blah 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 blah. As far as James Harden, it really comes down to what he does in the playoffs. I mean, if they roll through the playoffs and somehow James Harden outplays Kawhi and PG3 and earns a Finals MVP, then all of a sudden people are going to talk about James Harden and I think give him more credit than he actually deserves, just because Harden he's putting the effort in on defense now, but he's still not a defender. And those early bits in his career, and we've discussed it on here, and Harden is laughable for most of his career on defense. So I still think all of that's there. I think they're hiding him well because they are a defensive minded team. But I just think overall, if they win that championship and they do get that, I think it does more for Westbrook than Harden. Unless Harden gets that Finals MVP, then I think people will jump on that.
I kind of agree with you, Mike. I think it will do a little more for Westbrook. It's a double-edged sword with Westbrook because was at the Lakers, was with the Lakers, and refused to accept a different role. Was adamant that he could keep the same role. Goes to Clippers, accepts it, and they could get to the finals and win it. Because he's accepting it, and they needed him in that role. But at the same time, it's also gonna, with the way fans are, there's gonna be a lot of fans, which there's more Laker fans than there are Clipper fans. We're also going to kind of poop on him for the way he did it. So yeah.
Well, you know, as a Laker fan here, I mean, we're focusing a little bit on Westbrook, right? But even if he took that role that he's taking with the Clippers, with the Lakers, do we really know the way the team is assembled that would have really made a difference? I mean, if you're thinking about it right now, the way the Clippers roster has been assembled, you added two superstars, you know, one on the bench, one starting lineup with the role players that actually have accepted their role. You know what I'm saying? Like the Norman Powells, the Zubac's, Terrence Mann before, he got his minutes cut. You know, the guys, these Clipper, the role players for the Clippers have been in this role player position for a while. The Lakers, they've been assembled in a way the last couple of years that is questionable to me as a Laker fan, because we have role players trying to be superstars and then playing roles that they wouldn't be expected on any other team. And then the inconsistency with the rotations and everything. I think Tyronn Lue has done a great job managing egos. And I think that comes from his time under Phil Jackson. I think that plays a role, as well as time under Doc Rivers. Those are two coaches that we can say have managed egos throughout their coaching careers.
I would agree with you for the most part. However, the way these circumstances went, Westbrook adamantly was furious with Vogel. He let everyone know about it. You know, Frank Vogel probably lost his job because of Westbrook. And to be honest with you, I think Frank Vogel is a better coach than what we're seeing in our coaching situation right now. I probably would rather have Frank Vogel as our coach right now, as opposed to Darvin Ham. No disrespect to Darvin Ham. I just think X's and O's, Frank Vogel was better. He probably wasn't as better at managing egos as Darvin Ham is. He's the kind of raw coach who also is kind of tough on his guys, that does a good balance of it. I think Frank Vogel was kind of like one of those nerds who just lived and breathed basketball, so didn't maybe know how to communicate as well as he should have. But Westbrook wanted Vogel out, wasn't happy with Vogel because Vogel wanted him to come off the bench. And Westbrook wanted the ball in his hands, yet LeBron was on the team. And I know LeBron is older, but personally, I'd still want the ball in LeBron's hands than Westbrook's hands. And now he's with the Clippers, where he's playing
I would disagree.
alongside James Harden, who has the ball in his hands even more than LeBron does.
Wait. I don't want to interrupt, but you just said you want the ball in Westbrook's hands over LeBron's.
LeBron's hands over Westbrook's.
No,
Omar.
I said I disagree, and I'll go on record that I to me feel like offense is stagnant when the ball's in LeBron's hand. Every team that he's been on, especially now this Laker team.
Omar, I agree with you on that. However, you can't have Westbrook and LeBron on the court, and you're like, it's better to put the like think about it from a coaching standpoint, where like if I put the ball in LeBron's hand and Westbrook would just decide to back cut, LeBron's better at finding Westbrook than Westbrook would be pummeling down court as fast as he can with LeBron trailing. It wasn't a good fit.
I don't
So
disagree when you put
that's why,
when
yeah,
you
that's
put
why
him in that.
Vogel, right? Vogel wanted him to come off the bench because of that, so that Westbrook could have the ball coming off the bench. Westbrook refused to come off the bench and wanted the ball to go through his hands with that first group. Whereas now he's with the Clippers, and you have James Harden on the team who has the ball more in his hands more than LeBron does. Why is it okay now for Westbrook to say, I will let him have the ball. I won't worry about it. I'll work on it in the second group. That was like where like there was a little bit of anger from Laker fans, right? I think he's going to see whether he wins the title or not.
I get the point you're saying here, and one thing I want to point out is you have to also keep in mind is, you know, the four key players for the Clippers. You talk about Harden, Russ and Harden played together in Houston, so they obviously had fun playing together.
OKC.
In OKC, they started their career together in OKC, right? But that's when Harden was still trying to create a name for himself, right? We're not talking about today. Today's Harden from Houston to Philly, you know, to Brooklyn to Philly. And then Kawhi, you know, being that he's always played, he came up in an organization where there were three superstars ahead of him, and he played a role and he fit in and understands how to be a team player. And then you have Paul George, who also during his Indiana runs, you know, pre-injury, he also played with other all-stars on that team. And you know, when he went to OKC, he coexisted again with Russ. So you basically brought, you know, four superstars together that have coexisted with other superstars versus, you know, LeBron. Yes, he's played with Hall of Famers, but we all talked about it on previous episodes, and I'm not going to harp on it of how their roles diminished or became a certain way. I think the thing is for the Clippers, like I said, right now, they're gelling, they're coexisting, but I don't have them in my top three as contenders.
Let's stick to that real quick. So I know Mike has three teams in general. I'd like to list three teams from the West, three teams from the East each. So Mike, maybe expand your list a little bit. Let's
I can do that.
I think we all agree. I agree with the Clippers. Let's see what Omar thinks. What is his three teams?
Just back to the Clippers before we move on, because Omar mentioned it, but I didn't really cover it. If the Clippers do win a championship, it's going to do more for Kawhi Leonard's legacy than anyone else's. 3 championships, 3 different teams. Obviously the first one with the Spurs, it was his, you know, showing up. This is I'm here type win.
Welcome to the league.
He still had great players around him. Toronto, some people will discount it as, oh, Durant got hurt and they only won because of injuries, but he hit some big shots along the way to get there. He carried that team. Second championship, second finals MVP. And if the Clippers do win, he will be the finals MVP of that team.
Agree.
And then he was supposed to be the savior of that organization, right? That franchise. And he brings a championship to LA, right? Even though he's not from LA, and you're gonna hear a lot of LA people go, nah, he's not from LA, he's from the IE, whatever the case may be. Because you know, you got Russ and James who are actually from LA, and you know, Paul from Palmdale, which is LA County, but he came to that team, and these guys all came to play with him, not the other way around.
Just to add that third team for the West, because we want to do 3 and 3, and we've covered the Clippers. I don't think we need to talk about the Nuggets too much right now. Obviously, the Nuggets are the other team I had in there, and then I think this will shock a lot of people, but I'm going to put the Lakers in there, just because
my 3 too, Mike.
It's a LeBron James team. You got to be. I'm a person where you got to prove something different before I'm going to say something different. Timberwolves, great regular season team. Almost every Rudy Gobert team is a great regular season team. Playoffs come around, they get exposed. Thunder playing great right now. I still think they need another year or two. I think they are the same as last year's Sacramento Kings. I think they're kind of overachieving. They'll kind of fall into where they are. I think you give Chet another year, Shea another year, you keep those guys together, they'll start going. So probably next year. So I really think it's the two LA teams and Denver. And until somebody proves to me that they can beat LeBron James consistently in the playoffs and knock him out, I'm going to pick a LeBron James led team. Do I think that they'll win it? No, obviously I said it's going to be Celtics versus Denver or the Clippers, but if I'm expanding to three teams, I'm picking the LeBron James led.
What about your third team in the East, Mike?
Well, I'd have to add two in the East because I only had the
Let's
Celtics.
let's
you're right.
go through your side on the West, Omar.
Your West, yeah.
I mean, definitely, we're going to put Denver. You know what I'm saying? Right there. We're not even going to.
You said you don't have the Clippers.
I don't have the Clippers because, again, the Clippers, again, we know how they do, even what they had Chris Paul, Blake Griffin and all, and that team, they lost in the second round. They lost in the conference finals. Clippers can't get over that hump. Maybe this team can. I'm going to go on a limb and say, if the Warriors make it in, that's a team also who know how to win come playoff time. And it's a long shot. That's my dark horse in the West is the Warriors, not the Lakers. Just because, again, they still have Curry. They still have, their core guys, and Kuminga's playing well, and a lot of other players are stepping up. And if they get in and the play-in team, come playoff series, that's a whole nother situation. And that's the thing we have to take into account. Like you mentioned, Mike, here when it comes to LeBron and the Lakers, come playoffs, it's a series. You know what I'm saying? You're not one win and go home. So there's adjustments that need to be made. There's teams that have been there before that understand what playoff basketball is compared to other teams. You're right, the Lakers there. However, I'm going to keep OKC in my top three simply because I know you made the comparison to Sacramento, but they're better than Sacramento was when Sacramento made that run, that overachieving run last year. OKC right now is a well-balanced machine. Yes, they lost to the Lakers the other night, and that's fine. But again, we're talking about in a playoff series, depending on who they match up with, they're gonna have a lot of mismatches. Shea has been carrying that team and he's doing it consistently. He's been to me, he's a dark horse for an MVP. And we'll leave that conversation for another day. But my three teams is, like I mentioned, Denver, Golden State, and OKC.
Okay, so my three was the same as Mike's. I have Denver, I have the Clippers, and I have the Lakers. I will start with this. I will not be shocked to see either OKC or the Warriors make it to the finals. However, I'm not expecting it. I think the Warriors are in a bit of a limbo because they are starting to implement some of the youth onto their team. Some of their older guys have started to deteriorate, which is visible. And I think that they're kind of almost in a no man's land because of it, because they didn't develop their youth enough. I don't think I can rely on Kuminga come playoffs to be a number 2 option on that team to help Curry get to a finals yet.
But then also if Wiggins comes back,
right, but
that changes the dynamic of that team.
I won't be shocked. I'm not expecting it because of situations like that, and because Clay might turn it on tomorrow. But from what I've seen this season, there's definitely he lost a step, which is
he's also agreed to come off the bench. And if you get a guy at caliber to come off the bench, we talked about Russ coming off the bench. Now you got an actual, dead eye shooter coming off the bench. That's huge.
Again, I won't be shocked. I'm not expecting it just for those reasons. I just think that Kuminga's a year away, but then a year away, they might have other problems where someone deteriorates a year more. And like they're maybe like that. They needed to make a trade, honestly. And like that was my situation. They didn't, and I think that hurt them. And then as far as OKC, I expected this OKC Thunder to make a trade as well. I said that they are more than capable. They did not. They like what they have, which I get it. I think they'll do well. I just don't expect them to win a title just because they're still really young. However, I think that even though they didn't make a trade at this deadline, I will not be surprised to see OKC have an absolutely unreal offseason and turn their team into a legitimate contender so that next year they will be on this list. So I still think they're a year away. The Timberwolves are a team that I really like, especially defensively. I think they're also somewhat in that limbo, whereas Gobert and Conley are a little older. I don't know if they're going to be capable to do enough come playoffs. And also Towns and Edwards are a little young at this point to be leaders on a title team. So I just don't think they're there right now. And then when it comes to the Clippers and Denver, I think those are the top two. I expect one of those two to get to the finals right now. I personally think it's the Clippers. I think the Clippers are going to the finals. I don't know if they'll win it, but I think that from the West, they're the most sure bet you can make for. The Lakers right now are rolling, and the whole thing that changes with them is health. If LeBron or AD come playoff time goes through any tiny bit of injury, just throw everything I said out the window. I don't even want to have this conversation with them anymore because I could see it happening, but that also goes for the Clippers. So
then two things just to finish out the West here and to hit the Warriors there. I completely agree with what you said as far as the know-how and turning it back on. You have a team of guys who know how to win. And that's the same reason why I wouldn't be shocked if they made it. Same reason why I would be shocked if OKC did, because they don't have that experience yet. So Steph Curry knows how to win. He knows what it takes. Clay knows what it takes. Draymond knows what it takes. So all of that. And then I know we all picked Denver, but we didn't really say anything about Denver. I don't think we need to, but at the same time, I don't want to short them. Since the All-Star break, they've won 6 in a row. They just beat the Lakers down 15 in the fourth quarter. They've been on a roll. And
I don't think the Nuggets are going back to back. I said this earlier. I don't think they're going back to back.
Again, I'm picking the Celtics, but I would not be shocked.
I don't see them. I personally don't think the Nuggets are going to the finals again this year.
And I have the Clippers at the same level. I just don't want to discount the Nuggets and now how they're starting to get into playoff form and starting to roll and look up. So
same here. I just think the West is going to be so brutal this year. Like when you think about the Lakers and the Warriors are going to be probably 7th and 8th seeds or somewhere around there, or 6th seeds. It's going to be absolutely brutal for the first round for those top seed teams. I think the Timberwolves and OKC Thunder could be out in the first round, depending on matchup. So even the Clippers, if they get matched up against the Lakers, I could see them being either so worn out that they'll lose in the second round because of it. So there's a lot of stuff there that's going to affect it. So
let's jump over to the East. I mean, that's the exact reason why I think the Celtics, it's theirs to lose, because you want 3 people that I think are contenders in the East, and realistically, you have the Celtics, and I guess the next closest would be the Bucks. And the Bucks have issues that I don't think Lillard wants to be there. I don't think he'll be there at the end or the beginning of next season. But they're so far behind where Boston's at. Boston, in my opinion, is just going to cruise to the finals. But if I had to pick 3, I'm going with Boston, Milwaukee, and probably the Knicks. Maybe Cleveland. I think Philadelphia is done. I think they're going to be too far gone, and injuries kind of derailed them. So they're so far behind the Celtics. I don't think any of them are realistically contenders.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you, Mike, on the Boston statement. Right now, Boston is the team in the East to beat. Milwaukee with the coaching changes, that how that again, how can Doc get them to the finals again? That's a big question mark that we all know. Obviously, Philly would have been a contender if they didn't lose Embiid. That played a big factor in there. I'm going to mention 2 teams here because Milwaukee, to me, is on the bubble of being one of the top 3 here. But so you got New York, again, because we're in a different era of basketball in the NBA, and so a team like New York could have what it takes to make it. But again, like you said, it runs through Boston. For me, my dark horse of the East is always going to be Miami. Spoelstra has done it consistently, taking either an 8 seed team or a lower seed team to the finals last several years. So again, Miami to me is my dark horse out of the East. You can't put anything past them. Once they get in the playoffs, it's a whole nother Miami team that you've seen. We all know playoff Jimmy pause is a whole nother, you know, dynamic there.
I love the Heat, and they made my list too. I told you guys earlier in the season, I think if the Heat get matched up against the Celtics, I think they're going to beat them. I just have this gut feeling about that team. Like they do it every single year. They play defense, especially during the playoffs, at the same level that the Celtics are playing right now. Yes, the Celtics might have a better defensive first five. However, I personally, I think Spoelstra is the best defensive coach in the league right now. The schemes he puts, the way he uses Bam all over the floor, and the fact that you have a guy like Jimmy Butler who you can put on Tatum and he can shut Tatum down. And I just don't think there's anyone on the Celtics team that could stop him when he gets going. What he did to Drew Holiday last year. Drew Holiday is the best perimeter defender in the NBA. What he did to Drew Holiday last year in the first round of the playoffs was the most eye-opening thing for me ever, since I'm the biggest advocate for Drew Holiday there is, from his college days. And Jimmy just flat out embarrassed him. And I don't think Drew can check Jimmy, especially come playoffs. So for me, the Heat are on it. They're definitely my dark horse too. The Bucks are not on my list. I told you guys earlier in the year, I don't think this team is going to make the playoffs. I'm sorry, I don't think this team is going to be a contender. They have amazing talent. They messed up. This is a management issue from them. And this is like where I look at like teams and organizations. I cannot comprehend, number one, why they fired Budenholzer. If you had this team right now and you had Budenholzer, to me, I'm going to say this team is probably going to beat the Celtics. I would be confident saying that, just because Budenholzer's defense would at least cover up for what they're lacking right now.
We know what the Celtics are doing, though. I mean, they've beaten 3 teams by more than 50 points. Never been done. They were on an 11-game win streak. It would have been 12, but they lost tonight on an overturned call, which was the right call, but still. And their net rating now as a team is higher than Kevin Durant, Steph Curry's Warriors from 16 and 17.
I completely understand it is, Mike. They're one of the few teams in the NBA that plays defense consistently. They are a very good defensive team, and that's what's putting them in the situation that they're in right now. However, my case with them is I don't expect them to be completely healthy come playoffs. Like, timing is huge. Like we watched Miami deal with injuries early in the season. We're looking at the New York Knicks deal with some injuries right now. Like, once playoffs come, the team that's healthiest is going to go the furthest. Like, this has been consistent in the NBA for years now. It's like health is super important. We were just talking about the Clippers. Remember in the bubble, what happened to the Clippers? That whole break that they took completely ruined that team. They were ready to go to the finals that year too. And then all of a sudden, Kawhi goes through an injury. Paul George goes through an injury. Everything went out the window, and the Lakers were the team that was healthy, and they went out and won.
That whole break got AD healthy, right?
Exactly. So this break is for certain teams is going to get certain players healthy, and I don't trust Porzingis. I just don't, especially in a grueling 7-game series. If he's playing against the Heat, who's probably one of the most physical defensive teams in the NBA. Bam he literally injured Julius Randle last year when they were playing the Knicks in the second round of the playoffs. And it was because he was overly physical. KP's got like some of the weakest knees in the league. So for me, like, I just worry about the Celtics' health. And if Kristaps Porzingis gets injured, which he's missed the most games out of that starting 5 so far, if he gets injured come playoffs or has to miss even 2 games, I think it will cost them the series. So I'm a little hesitant with the Celtics, although I still expect them to meet the Clippers in the finals right now. If I were to pick right now, my life is on the line, I'm picking Clippers versus Celtics. I still think they can be beat. Milwaukee's not part of my top three. For me, it's going to be Celtics, Knicks, and the Heat. Knicks, their depth when fully healthy is the deepest in the league. The way they were playing before Julius Randle's injury was probably the best in the league at that point. They had won 8 straight games. They were destroying teams. They beat the Denver Nuggets at that point by 40 something points. They were just crushing everyone that they were playing against, and they were doing it with defense first, physicality, and with size. So if I were to beat the Celtics, I would want to beat them with size. Because I think that if you could put Tatum in a situation where he has to guard bigger guys, or Jaylen Brown in a situation where he has to guard bigger guys, you're going to get them in foul trouble. And that's probably the best way to beat them. So the Knicks are in my list.
Team, a Thibodeau defensive team is always going to give people problems. I think at the end of the day, we still got 21 games to go, 20 plus games to go, and a lot of things can change and with some of the other teams that are not mentioned today. But the top three that we talked about are more than likely going to be playoff, reach, eligible.
Omar, really quick, I have to ask you this.
Yeah.
Me and Mike both think it's gonna be Clippers versus Celtics. Like that's our prediction. If we, gun to our head right now, that's what we're picking. What's yours?
Oh, Denver, Boston.
Denver, Boston. Okay. I'm gonna have a little fun with this. We can't pick either of the teams that we picked. Okay, but we could pick from the 6 teams that we chose. Who's gonna make it to the finals aside from those teams?
Oh, if you leave that up to me, I'm going New York, OKC.
Interesting. Mike?
So I got the Clippers out. So Denver, Milwaukee. Doc Rivers can get him there and then blow it. I mean, Lillard. I think Lillard's going to have a lot to prove come playoff time. So I think he'll step that up. They've had injuries throughout the year. They'll shake off the rust. Giannis will go and be Giannis and drag them there. So those would be the other two if I had to pick somebody. I know what you said about Miami. I like Miami, but
see, I was gonna have some fun with this one because I think if those 2 teams don't get in it, I think it's gonna end up being the Heat and the Lakers.
yeah, no.
Yeah, I could absolutely see, and here's part of my conspiracy theories that go on here. The NBA pushing for something like that if they can't get Clippers, Boston.
Because I'm gonna leave it at this, and I think this is a perfect segue to end this episode. Is you're trying to have a rematch of the bubble so LeBron can double down on his championship ring against Miami in the bubble. That's your conspiracy.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not saying that LeBron would win. I'm just saying I could see the NBA pushing for that because the NBA loves storylines, and that was a storyline when those 2 teams got to the finals. And also the storyline will also be that here's Jimmy keeps going to the finals, unable to win, and maybe 3rd time's the charm for him.
Possibly. I can see where you're going with that.
Listen, if somehow it's the Lakers versus the Miami Heat and it's a bubble rematch, the Lakers would win that. It's just, yeah, the Lakers would still win that. If everyone's healthy and that's what happens to be the matchup, I would pick the Lakers there.
I'm gonna disagree with you on this one for one reason.
Because you're a Laker fan and you don't want to be a total homer and you don't want
No. Actually, no. See, I think the biggest advantage that the Lakers
he's just a LeBron hater. You forgot about that, Mike.
No, I'm not. I'm actually not a LeBron hater. You're the LeBron hater. I'm not. I don't hate LeBron. Like I really don't. I hate, which we'll finish this episode with this, but I hate. Sorry, I don't hate LeBron. My whole thing is, I'm sorry. The Lakers won that series because of their size. And one of the biggest things that they had at that time was Dwight Howard. They allowed AD to play power forward. Dwight Howard played center. And they did that for a lot of that series. And Dwight was giving it to Bam, if you guys can remember that. Dwight was giving it to him. He was playing just as physical with Bam as Bam was playing with everybody else.
That makes a lot more sense these days.
Right?
That Dwight was giving it to Bam.
Yeah. I was gonna let you live, but
Yeah, no, absolutely not. We don't ever let any of us live when something like that happens.
Well, you know what? I'm just gonna make it worse. you had to touch on something today, and that was it.
Oh, I don't. I guess Dwight was touching on it, not me.
So you don't
Yeah.
think you don't think
I personally think that the reason Lakers won that series is because they were a lot bigger than the Heat, and right now the Lakers aren't that much bigger. So I actually think it'd be a really good series. And my whole thing is LeBron is aging, like he's aging, and I think right now Jimmy's probably in his prime, maybe at the back end of his prime. I could see Jimmy getting this one just because of that difference. So if that situation arrives and you ask me to bet on it, I would hate to say it, but I'd probably bet against my Lakers.
yeah, Boston would literally have to get into a plane crash. There's
mean,
no way they're not going to the finals.
Mike, if Porzingis gets injured and hurts his knee and he's out for the rest of the playoffs, that team's not going to the finals,
They
bro.
have a bait. I mean, if let's pretend the
Al
playoff.
Horford as your starting center is not getting you the finals.
I agree, but they have a cruise to the. If the playoffs started today, they've got the Pacers in round one saying that get rid of the 9 and 10 seed. Pacers are the 8 seed. Okay, so then after they beat up on Indiana, we're just going to take the top seeds all the way. Then they're playing the Magic.
No, but that's see, like it's the same thing in the East as it would be in the West. They're probably not going to play the Magic. I think that some of these seeds, like again, like I don't think Cleveland is as great as their record is, especially come playoffs. When playoffs come, like the Heat and Knicks, the way they play defense is going to be more effective than the offense that the Cavaliers have been playing. So I I don't think they're playing the Magic.
Cleveland's the 3 seed, so they would be playing Miami in the first round. Orlando's the 4th seed, so they would be beating the
Who are
Knicks.
they
So
playing? Who are they
even if
playing?
who's who playing? Orlando?
Yeah,
They playing the Knicks. So then you
so they
got the
lose to the Knicks.
oh
So
okay.
they're playing the Knicks. And then the Knicks are probably gonna wear the Celtics down, and then they'll play the Heat in the
You don't need
finals.
to rely on their guards, their guard play. You keep Kristaps away from Julius Randle. You have Horford
He
come
doesn't
in.
guard them.
That's what I'm saying. You just so they're fine. They're healthy. They walk in.
Celtics.
Yeah, the Celtics.
Right now they are. They've been relatively healthy all year. And usually the teams that are relatively healthy all year, playoffs come and
That's what I'm saying. They have, from my standpoint, a relatively easy cakewalk to the finals.
I'm not calling it a
Yes.
cakewalk, Mike.
The West has to
Omar,
beat themselves up.
how disappointed will Mike be if the Celtics lose now in the playoffs?
I won't be disappointed at all. I can tell you that right now. I mean, I don't need the Celtics to win.
You're calling it a cakewalk. Like that's
Yeah.
like
But I would be extremely shocked if Boston isn't in the finals.
I'm telling you, I won't.
Does that mean I would be sad if they don't make it to the finals?
I won't. I won't be shocked. I would
Wait, I
only
missed
be
that.
shocked if
What
it's
was
like
that? What was that, Zico? You said I missed that part. Say that again.
imagine how Mike's gonna act when the Celtics don't get to the finals.
I mean, he's not a Celtic fan, so I don't think he's gonna care too much.
Yeah,
But
but
I-
he's saying cakewalk.
But I will be shocked. I will come on here and say, "Oh my gosh, how did this happen? How did the New York Knicks beat a healthy Boston team?" That I would be shocked, and you wouldn't because you said, I mean, until today, you said the Knicks. You said the Knicks in Miami pretty.
No, I think the Knicks in Miami could beat the Celtics. I
Yeah,
think they could beat the Celtics.
And
I
you-
think if Milwaukee had kept Budenholzer, I think they could have beat the Celtics.
I agree with that. I think that was a dumb move. I would love to hear the story behind why Milwaukee got rid of them or him. I think it was absolutely ridiculous. So I completely
And
agree.
why they hired Doc Rivers.
Again, completely agree. But all of that aside, they did all of that. I would be extremely shocked if Boston wasn't in the finals. Obviously, they got to stay healthy. If they lose Tatum, all of that goes out the window. If they lose Kristaps, I still think they can get to the finals, but it would be more of a struggle. I would probably change my shocked meter, right? But from right now, everyone healthy, everyone all in, it's a cakewalk for Boston to get to the finals.
Okay. All right. So I want to end this episode with one thing that I will lead into the next episode because I think it's a conversation that we should have. LeBron James recently was interviewed, and he said something in his interview that bothers me. And so, like, we were talking about LeBron, and Omar thinks I'm a LeBron hater. Again, I'm not. I actually genuinely like LeBron's game. When LeBron was
I know you're not. I was
right,
just saying
but
that.
Omar, tell me if you feel the same way about me as about this as I do. When LeBron James came to the league, I liked LeBron. I thought he had great potential. I was excited to see what he's going to do. When he beat the Detroit Pistons and had that amazing series, I was like, dude, this guy's legit. Like, I like seeing what I'm seeing. I didn't like the decision. However, when he was playing with the Heat, the way he was playing defense, the way Spoelstra held him accountable, I genuinely liked watching the Heat play basketball. I think that team was amazing. But what has always bothered me about LeBron is the shit he says. He already has every camera on him all the time, and then he says things that, to me personally, I feel like he makes up in his head. I just can't comprehend some of the stuff and why he's doing it. He's always like playing some kind of media game, and he said something that's genuinely bothering me. He said that when he came into the league, everyone wanted to see him fail. And there's a reason why this bothers me. LeBron James came into the league at the tail end of the OG era. This is when Kobe was there, when KG was there, Tim Duncan, the old school basketball players, the end of the old school basketball era was there. And the one thing I know about the old school basketball era, those guys didn't want to see anyone fail. Those were the kind of guys that would go at you just to see what you're made of. None of them wanted to see you fail, but they wanted to see what you're made of. And so when I hear LeBron James say stuff like everyone wanted to see me fail, no one did. They put him in every position possible to succeed. And yet here he is in year 20 after scoring 40,000 points, having an interview where he says, of all the things he had to overcome was coming into the league and having people wanting to see him fail. I personally think that more people wanted to see the LeVar brothers fail just because of social media and how crazy it was at that time than anyone had anything to do with LeBron. There wasn't really social media at that time, especially to the extent of what we're looking at now. Omar, your mic is off.
Yeah, so I didn't see the interview. Was hearing about this right now, but when he says everybody wanted to see me fail, is he talking about players or is he talking about fans?
Everyone.
Okay, so I mean, when anybody says everyone or all or nothing, I mean, there's never going to be everybody, obviously, because I'm sure his mom didn't want to see him fail, right? But he's talking as a majority, and I still don't know if that's true because I still think a lot of people wanted to see him succeed, and a lot of people, his fans, wanted to see him live up to that hype. So would I be on the side that says, "Oh yeah, everybody wanted to see him fail"? Probably not. I mean, Nike jumped on, I don't want to say the bandwagon, but obviously they sponsored him early on. And anytime you have a corporation that size with people that are that big of fans, and
Means a lot of people believe in you and expect you to succeed.
they give you your own shoe line, and basically you have the only other.
Billboards all across every big city of you,
Yeah.
arms spread like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so
The
that
chosen one.
Fellas, it's real simple, and I'm gonna say this with two statements here. LeBron is one of the most insecure superstars the game has seen, and two, he's an attention seeker. He's always saying stuff that is irrelevant to stay media relevant. Same thing he did what we talked about last episode about the comment he made about his son. Then now Zico's mentioning this one. I haven't personally heard it either, so I'm taking it for face value in the sense that I haven't. I believe Zico said that. And the other one that he said where he said he didn't want a farewell tour. You know what I'm saying? He's always making statements or saying stuff that are unnecessary for a guy like you said who has surpassed 40,000 points. A guy that is in his caliber of accolades. Like okay, I might not be the biggest LeBron fan, but I'll give credit where credit's due. for somebody that has accomplished what he has, some of the stuff he says to me is insecure.
Agree,
Yes.
agree, and it blows my
Oh.
mind because someone
Oh.
who, for someone who also says, "I'm going to let my game speak for itself." We don't
All
need the extra stuff, man.
I'll agree with point number two that he stays media relevant. He says things to stay media relevant. But as far as point one, it being, I don't know if he's insecure. I don't think he takes a lot of things that other people have to a point where it really affects him. I think he takes it and says something to comment on it to stay in the media. But if you're talking about like insecure, that's Kevin Durant. And I know you're not saying he is the most insecure. You're saying he's one of. But
Oh, we're not gonna. We can have a whole episode about Durant and his burner count and his
yeah,
insecurity and all that stuff. Let's just put that away. But
But I think LeBron does the same thing. Like he literally hired his friends. He got his friends hired into ESPN to write articles about his greatness and
but I
basically
don't think
bash on anyone who thinks anyone else could be mentioned with him.
yeah, but I don't think that's insecurity. I think that's more ego. Yeah, I don't think that's him saying, "Oh
I think
no."
his insecurities come out when people disagree with his friends and him.
Yeah, maybe, but I still don't think that it's an insecurity thing. I don't think he's worried about. He's not going to go comment on what everybody else thinks. He's going to comment about a mainstream item to stay relevant.
If you
And
think it's not insecurities, have you looked at his nails? Because that dude eats his nails alive all game long.
I don't. Biting your nails is an insecurity thing
Joking,
either.
joking. I had to throw that out there. As someone who bites
Just
their
a,
nails
I,
all
I
day.
mean,
gross habit.
I mean, he's not bad as bad as Carlos Boozer, but you know, when you start painting your hair because you have a receding hairline and you have to fill in the gap, you know what I'm saying? That's all part of being insecure about your physical appearance.
Could have
know,
just
not
been the turkey.
Insecure about your hairline and insecure about your career are two different things. But I'll give you the hairline thing. That seems a little weird. I don't
Mike,
think anyone knows
if
about
you're
that.
once you're insecure, you carry an insecure trait. It's sometimes very hard to get rid of it, and if you continue to mask it with egotistical things, it becomes very apparent and obvious. And I'll drop the mic on that one. I'm done talking about LeBron.
All right, yeah, I think we'll end the episode there, guys. Omar, I know you're headed to go handle some errands right now. It looks like you're running, so we'll tell Marcus you are.
He's
And
in a car that needs
No,
some.
I'm actually in a car right now.
I know
So,
you are. I'm being sarcastic.
Look like a
yeah,
little.
I'm running away from the phone call because I'm on my phone, so I can't make that call.
You look like a bobblehead right now. Everybody like and subscribe. You can see Omar's bobblehead in the car.
All right, guys. Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys all have a good night, and we'll be back next week to annoy the hell out of everybody.
All right, good night, everybody.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Bye.